Good evening. You're watching The Big Story. Many thanks for joining us. My name is Jesse Rogers, sitting in for Linda Ogutu. Tonight, we focus on the high prevalence rate of gender-based violence that has been enacted in different parts of this country in many different manifestations. We will remember of the latest case that affected the family of the late Ivy Wangeshi. And this is what we are basing this particular conversation on. It is something that attracts various emotions, mixed emotions, especially on social media. We have seen what Kenyans had to say about that particular case. But what do we know about it? It's an intimate, it's a type of violence that is meted out against both sexes. That's both men and women, but it has a high prevalence rate towards women. Now, this is one of the talking points we will be discussing on the show tonight. So once again, many thanks for joining us. You're watching The Big Story. All right, now we just want to take a look at what the kin of the late Ivy Wangeshi, specifically the mother, had to say in regards to what happened, and it's very, very shocking. So let's just listen to what the mother had to say.
Kenyans, we have to change our attitude towards women. Women are not gold diggers. Women have learned to work hard for themselves. We are waking up every day to go and work for ourselves and our families. So anytime somebody decides to be cruel and kill, it is not because they have eaten their money. It is not because they have sustained us. So today it's me. Tomorrow it is in Eldoret. The other day it is in Nyanza. It will even go to Madeira. It will go everywhere. But the moment it touches you, you realize how cruel Kenyans can be.
All right, now on the show tonight, I shall be speaking to psychologist Dr. Frida Kameti and the Vice President of the Law Society of Kenya, Harriet Chigai. I shall also be speaking to a victim of domestic violence, Emma Njeri. But before I engage them, let me bring in our lead reporter, Sophia Wenuna, who is on standby for more on this. Sophia, good evening.
Good evening, Jesse. So an important conversation we're having this evening. A lot has been said. Kenyans taking to social media to weigh in on what's been happening, and just listening to the late Ivy Wangeshi's mother there having to come out to defend the integrity of her late daughter owing to the literal character assassination, the rumors, the innuendos, the things people started to put out there, some of them almost relating this would have happened as a result of 1, 2, 3. Quite unfortunate. But to get more perspectives about what really is going on in the society, is the moral fabric of the country broken? I have with me sociologist from the University of Nairobi, Dr. Ken Oko. Thank you for making time for us. Let's begin with that clip we just played. Wangeshi's mother, and really coming out to say, all these things you all are trying to say out there and paint a picture of why this would have happened, or this is the result of 1, 2, 3, is quite unfortunate. And you must have seen what people were saying. In fact, some being as daring as saying, yeah, if money was being sent, because that was the narrative to this woman, she was being gifted and did not reciprocate, that perhaps was deserving of this?
Yeah, the Kenyan approach to social media especially is a bit devastating. And what has been going on is that anything that happens in this country, the social media warriors, the keyboard warriors, they pick it up. You know, before we even knew much about this death, already there was a lot of theories of what could have caused it and what had happened and, you know, this and that about her. And even before you get to the reality of it, you're already feeling like somebody is doing something they shouldn't be doing. And, you know, sometimes you wonder, like, do these guys ever even think of the family? Do they think of the relatives, the friends? But I guess that's the age of social media. We have to live with it. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to develop a thick skin, except when there's such a sorrowful thing happening in your life. And then you see all those nasty things on social media. It creates a bit of a crisis in the mind as well. because you start thinking, did I not know my own child? And then other mothers all over, like now, our students at the university are all telling us, oh, my mother is saying, don't come to school, don't do this, don't do that,
Wow.
And it's causing quite a bit of panic, especially in parenting, because parents are beginning to feel like there's something they don't know, and they're maybe failing their children or they're failing society. And so this keyboard warrior, approach to analyzing situations is actually leading to a crisis right now in Kenyan society, because there are things which we never anticipated, like parents telling their kids, take a break, 1 week, don't go anywhere, let this thing die down. But how do you know it's going to die down?
Right.
Yeah.
And they thrive, of course, in the anonymity that you'll sit there, nobody knows who you are, and can say whatever and get away with it.
Yeah.
But let's come back to this incident and others we've been reporting about. There are those mothers, parents, and the country in general watching and asking, is it that these cases of murder in the name of love are on the rise, or is it that the media is highlighting them?
I guess the media has to do its job, and what usually happens is, with certain forms of behavior, not just positive, especially negative behavior, there's what we call copycat reaction, and sometimes when you see something like that happening, the only problem where I would blame the media would be that they're making it look a little normal, normalization of crime, that you highlight it and every day somebody with an ulterior motive watches it, and then they're saying, this is actually happening, so I can also do this. And once you start engaging in that copycat reaction to criminality, you kind of accept it in your mind, and it becomes a cognitively, absorbable option to your problems, especially when you have relational problems, which you could have solved any other way. But you've seen somebody to solve it in another way, so you're thinking, that's a way out, and that creates a crisis. Otherwise, if you think of it like that, what we are saying is that there's something amiss in the way we relate, especially if you ask me, especially in this, you travel elsewhere in Africa, it's not that bad. Kenya, of course, we are very information savvy, and so everybody is always on tech, trying to do this and share. But if you ask me, the bottom line is that Kenyan men lack erotic intelligence. We are not doing things the way we're supposed to do them. And the Kenyan man's reaction is still that, relational caveman mentality, the RCM.
by their lovers or their exes or others as well, divulging barbaric plans of how they'll harm their loved ones. Now, just to string in and build up on this particular conversation, as earlier hinted, I'm joined by the psychologist, that's Dr. Frida Kameti. We also have the Law Society of Kenya Vice President, Harriet Chigai, in studio. But I want to start with Emma Njeri, who is a victim of gender-based violence. We just want her to give us her personal experience and recount to us what she went through, and perhaps use this as a building point for this particular conversation. So, Emma Njeri, a very good evening to you. Just recount to us your personal experience while you are undergoing the gender-based violence.
Thank you so much, Jesse, for having me today. My name is Emma Njeri. I work with Betty Adera Foundation, where our main activity is #NGBV. I personally, being a victim of gender-based violence, that happened in the year 2017 when I was only 24 years. And, as a 24 years old girl, I felt it was time, to fall in love and just to be loved. And I just met this guy who apparently was a very nice guy, good looking, born again, because personally I'm born again. So I was looking for a guy who is born again so that, we can have a life together. But after a couple of months of being in a happy relationship, enjoying every moment, praying together, laughing together, crying together, so things started changing like after some few months. And the changing came in when he started okay, I can call it cheating, because when I was with him, he was still talking to his ex-girlfriend. And I tried to resolve the matter by always asking him, why do you always talk to your ex-girlfriend? Why does she always call? Because apparently when I was with him, anytime she calls, he couldn't pick up. So I was asking him so many questions. Do you want to tell me after this, you don't call her back again? But anyway, any other man, he would say, no, actually she's the one who is, trying to run after me. At work, I remember I was just on social media, on Facebook, and I just bumped into photos that he was tagged by now the ex-girlfriend, and it happened that they had gone to see the grandmother now in the village. And of course I asked, okay, why have you gone to see your grandparents with your ex-girlfriend, and yet I'm the girlfriend? What is going on? And of course he could not explain. And he gave me a very lame answer by saying that, no, I didn't come with her, she was with my mom. And I'm like, how can your ex be with your mom and at the same time you're there with her? So, and then I couldn't talk to him at that moment. But after some times, now the girl called me. The girl called me and just asking me, okay, are you still dating with this guy? But I said, yes, I'm still dating him. But the girl gave me a different story. The guy told the girl that we had already parted ways, and now they were trying to go back together. And at the same time, this girl was already pregnant for him. And so, yeah.
All right, now let's get to the point. What I'm getting from you is that it was emotional violence. Is that true?
Yes, yes.
Okay, now what did this lead to? And perhaps did you ever feel the point of walking away at a specific instance in that relationship? And perhaps what kept you there?
Okay, like any other woman, I wanted to be loved. As much my work is to submit, but I needed to be loved. And so after just when I knew all that was going on, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. Actually, I just kept quiet. I never I didn't argue with him. I didn't ask for many questions. I just went silent for 3 days. I didn't talk to them. I didn't talk to him. I didn't talk to anyone. I was just all alone. But I remember that day, this lady said, I want to meet with you. I want us to talk. But I didn't know what we were going to talk about because it was really hurting. But I said, fine, let me just meet with her. So after meeting with her, she gave me so many stories. But that moment I felt inside me, let me just do the right thing. So what I told this girl, just told this girl, I want us to go to your house. And when we are there, just call this guy and let him come. So when he came, I just told him, you know what, I already know the story. And I want you guys to be together. And I remember I told them, I will just let you be. But the moment I will hear that you guys have parted way, I'm going to kill both of you. That's what I told them. You better stick to each other together. If you saw like I'm not, if you saw like I'm not fit for you, she's the one who's fit for you. I agree, and I'm just, I'm just walking away. But promise me that you'll never ever leave her, because the moment you leave her, I promise you, I'm going to kill both of you.
Okay, now let's build up from there. We have Frida Kameti in studio, who's a psychologist, and we've had the experience that Emma and Jerry went through. She's a victim, but she got to a point that she was issuing threats, whether directly or indirectly, to her ex-boyfriend at that particular time. Try and make us understand what goes through the mind of both the perpetrator and the victim in terms of gender-based violence, and why it comes to a certain extreme, such as issuing threats or, perhaps substantiating these threats.
Thank you so much, John. I think one of the things that most people don't understand, and I think you asked Emma that question, why did you not just leave? People seem to think that living an abusive relationship is very easy, but an abusive relationship is actually quite complex. People do not leave for various reasons. Most of the reasons we see stem from maybe financial situations, where maybe the couple or the people in the relationship have built together a life together, and now they're looking at, if we separate, this is going to take a toll on our financial situation. And then again, like even Emma said, sometimes you've been with someone for so long, you've invested emotionally, psychologically, financially. Walking away is just not an easy decision to do. The perpetrators, actually what the psychology behind the perpetrators is control. And by control, what I mean is they actually try and make sure that they're controlling you so that you feel like you do not have any other way out. The essence of actually intimate partner violence is when they're controlling you, they make you feel like you don't have anywhere else to go.
All right.
They have isolated you from your family. They've probably isolated you from your friends. So you feel like there's no way out, and it's easier to actually stay in the relationship, however unhealthy it is. And that's why when people ask, why not just leave? It is not an easy thing to actually just walk away. And actually, statistics show that when you threaten to leave, that is actually when most of the deaths occur in these cases.
Okay.
Because the perpetrator says, I'm going to kill you before you leave.
Well, extreme cases of violence right there. We'll come back to you, Frida Kameti, with perhaps the signs to look for and what went wrong with the fabric system in society, as well as the social support system. Let's bring in Harriet Chigai, who's the Law Society of Kenya Vice President. We're trying to understand the rise in love that kills. We well know that statistics prove that there is high gender-based violence, especially meted towards women. Now, why is this? Why is there a rise? Is it that more people are reacting to it right now because we're more aware, because we're more informed? And perhaps what remedies are in place?
Thank you, JC. One thing I must say is that the violence meets against women and against young women currently should be condemned in the highest terms possible by both men and women. And it's interesting to note that the cases are now at the high, and this can be attributed to many ingredients. Currently, either Kenyans are now well informed and they are able to articulate issues or to report these cases The other issue is the social media platform. You've realized that currently social media gives news as it happens. And you also realize that whenever this news is out there, it rolls out and it keeps rolling out. And right now, as we speak, we have seen how social media has completely gone out of its way to tarnish the victims of this violence, which is something that is appalling, and it's something that all Kenyans should condemn. And it is also prime to note that the society has completely degenerated itself. And we need to go back to the drawing board as Kenyans and ask ourselves, what is the kind of future that we are putting in place for the young ones who are coming up? It is also important to note that the young people are also participating in the high rate of violence in this country. And the question is, where did the rain start beating us? So this goes back to the kind of training we are actually exposing our children to, the society in itself. What kind of society are we allowing these children to grow up in? And it's also important that all Kenyans at large should be able to note that violence is not the only way out where there is dispute. And it's also important for all Kenyans to take note that there are remedies also in law. And murder is murder. There's no any other way of putting it. And it's time that the social order, starting from our churches, starting from our homes, that we start rethinking how this society is shaped. And this starts with us, ourselves.
All right, now that's very interesting. But let's rebuff to what Emma and Jerry said, and allow me to interact with her right now. She mentioned that the previous boyfriend at that particular time she experienced the emotional violence was a staunch Christian, in her words. You know, he seemed to be upright, and society didn't seem to have any negative traits to bestow upon this particular individual. Now, Emma, in terms of the remedies that you try to seek in order to, you know, perhaps save the relationship or save yourself from the violence that was meted out against you, what exactly did you do, and how's the response?
So after I decided, like, I just want to let these people be, and I just want to walk away. But I was not walking away because I wanted to, or because I was ready to walk away. Actually, at that moment, I didn't even know what I was saying. But I remember, I just thought, after now, like, giving them that threat, like, you guys, you have to stick together, failure to which, you're both dead. So I remember I told the guy, the time that we started dating, we knelt down and we prayed, and we asked God to walk with us through this dating. But not because we are parting ways. Also, I would like us to, you know, to just end this with, you know, with prayers. Okay, actually, it sounded very weird, but I said, no, let me just pray for you guys as I leave. And yeah, and I did that, exactly that. But I remember immediately I finished praying, I felt like something just hit me on the head, and I started seeing darkness in the room, in that room, and I couldn't even see anything. And I remember I told the lady, okay, I'm having this headache, kindly just go and get me some painkillers. So she went, brought me the painkillers, and I just said, I want to go home. So by the time I was getting home, I had a very bad headache. I was sweating. At some point, I was even nose bleeding. And I remember I just reached out to my phone, called my friend, and just said, you know what, I'm not okay. I just need your help. Just come to my place and just help me out.
So your friend, in short, your friend was there as a support system to help you get through that particular tough time, right?
No, actually, I just called them. I just called one of my friends. She just came over, but when they came, they were like, no, you are not in a good state. Let's take you to the hospital. So I remember, so the last thing I remember is just them taking me giving, I gave them my phone, I gave them the password, and I just said, just call my mom. And I just entered to the car, and from there, I just woke up, like, I think like after 2 weeks.
Okay.
Where I couldn't even know, even my mom. And apparently, I found myself in Madari Mental Hospital.
All right, Manjari. Thank you for recounting your experience, and we'll perhaps build up from what you've just told us. Remember, we have Manjari, who's a victim of gender-based violence. We also have Frida Kameti, who's a psychologist, and Harriet Chigai, LSK Vice President. Of course, we'll try and pick up the judging of the victims and the perpetrator on social media, because we saw that was really rife in the latest incident that befell at the family of the late Ivy Wangeshi. We'll also take a look at the failure to use logic, what perhaps brings this forth, and how we can actually shelve ourselves from making such irrational decisions. You're watching The Big Story. Let's take a short break. We'll be back.